I'm Harrison Graham. Here's what we got coming up on Chicago Bears Now. We got some new information and reporting on DJ Moore that I want to get into from The Athletic. Also, was Tyson Bagent's trade value revealed, at least from a Bears perspective? And then could Braxton Jones return in 2026? We dive into all those topics here on this video. But hey, I'm approaching 5,000 followers on the TikTok. I'm posting daily content, Bears and NFL over there. I'd love to get to 5,000 before the start of free agency 1 week from today. So if you want to help a brother out at HGramNFL, give me a follow, posting daily over there. I would greatly, greatly appreciate it. Okay, new DJ Moore info. The Athletic, Kevin Fishbain, and Dan Wiederer did some reporting from the NFL Combine, kind of emptied their notebook today, and there was a couple interesting nuggets in there on DJ Moore that I want to get into. Here's what they had to say at first here. They said, GM Ryan Poles made zero promises and even expressed uncertainty that Moore would remain on the roster beyond spring, a signal that the 28-year-old receiver isn't off limits when it comes to trade talks. It's complicated, though. The Bears coaches and front office value Moore's intelligence, versatility, underrated durability. He's also well regarded inside the locker room, but the Bears have a salary cap situation to massage, plus the responsibility of investigating a mystery that confounds many league observers. I think in terms of trade value there. And look, I've said this all along when it comes to DJ Moore. I think DJ Moore's a good football player. I don't think he's like a true one anymore, at least for most teams. Certainly could be for some teams. Like when he first got to Chicago, he was this team's clear one, and that's why he put up big numbers. He got force-fed a lot that first year from Justin Fields, and I would say he was even still this team's one last year, but obviously with Keenan Allen and Rome Odunze, he wasn't going to get that much overall volume, although he did have a lot of catches. But this year I think we saw, not just because, he's fallen off as a player, but I just think the Bears did a pretty good job of spreading the ball around and finding the right matchup. And Luther Burden came along, and Rome Odunze started the year off hot. And you've got a couple of tight ends that they like to throw the football to. And again, this is a roster management and financial discussion. It's never been, well, DJ Moore sucks. I'm not saying that. I think he'd be a 1 for a few teams. I think he'd be a 2 for a lot of teams. And you could even still say, would he be technically the Bears 1 or 2? I guess. I personally don't think so. I think he's probably more like your 2 or your 3, depending on how much Rome and Luther take a step next year. But regardless of that, it's more of, hey, even if his production comes up a little bit from last year, his 1,200-yard days with this team are over with the amount of players they have. That doesn't add up to $28.5 million. It just doesn't. So if you can save $16.5 and use that money elsewhere, I don't want to say it's an easy decision, but it's something you have to heavily consider and look into if you're the Bears, which is why Ryan Poles, like Kevin Fishbain and Dan Wiederer said, yeah, they not only left that door open, it kind of seems like a trade is potentially on the horizon here when it comes to the Bears veteran wide receiver. They also reported this, so talking to some sources at the Combine, they said one opposing coach who likens more to Deebo Samuel sensed on tape that Moore and Caleb Williams didn't have a strong connection. That chemistry has not looked as successful as the link between Williams and Rome Odunze. Added another league source, it's clear to me Caleb doesn't have a lot of trust in DJ. I don't think DJ has lost a step or anything like that. All the physical ability is still there, but at times that's what it boils down to. If your quarterback, for whatever reason, doesn't have that trust, there becomes a disconnect. And there's certainly been whispers of that over the last 2 years. Now, I think they got along and connected more this second season. They obviously connected on the field in a couple of major moments in big-time spots. So I think as time has gone on, that's been a little overblown. Even the last play of the season for the Bears offense, it was some level of a miscommunication, but he still went to him in a huge spot. It obviously didn't work out. Now, that's where the chemistry part of it comes in. That has never seemingly fully clicked between Caleb Williams and DJ Moore. But the bottom line of all of this is that's more of secondary. It's hey, we're in this win now window. We need to get better on defense. We have good weapons. We could draft a receiver to add to this room. You could sign a cheaper option in free agency. You need to clear the money. It's about the overall roster construction. Ryan Poles said it all week. Look, now that we're good, it's like these decisions become tougher because you have to make these big decisions and you grow attached to these guys, but you can't make them emotionally. It's nothing personal. DJ's a nice player. He would be more productive in some other situations, but I'm a big believer in Rome Odunze and Luther Burden. I'm a huge believer in Colston Loveland, but I'm the biggest believer in Ben Johnson. Like, I don't think Ben Johnson needs DJ Moore to make this thing go. Like, I think Ben is the engine and Caleb's the conductor. And I trust those two guys moving forward. So if you can clear the cap, add another piece to add to this nucleus, a secondary type of weapon, I think you're fine. I don't think we have to have DJ Moore on this football team. So I'm going to ask you guys, what would you do with DJ Moore? Type T for trade or K for keep. I would trade him. If they keep him, I'm not going to freak out. I don't think it's the end of the world, but I personally would take the out right now, especially if you can get a decent pick from like a 4th-round pick or something like that. Okay, was Tyson Bagent's trade value revealed by Brad Biggs? He mentioned something this morning on the score that I found pretty interesting. We'll talk about that coming up here in just a moment. But first, shoot your shot on Prize Picks and get $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5. That's right, Prize Picks is now giving you $50 in lineups when you sign up and play your first $5. Prize Picks makes every dunk, every dime, every board that much more exciting. So don't miss the chance to get started on America's #1 app for sports picks. Football might be over, but other sports are rolling along. We got basketball, hockey, soccer, golf, baseball is just around the corner, and you can set daily fantasy lineups with those sports. You can cross over sports in your lineup, just take more or less on the stat projections, and you are good to go. 2 to 6 player lineups. Or if you're a football junkie, you're like, I don't want to mess with these other sports, I'm not as confident. How about season-long stat projections? A lot of them have already dropped. I love the more on Micah Parsons, 13.75 sacks this upcoming year. He's had 14 or more 5 years in a row. I also took more on Caleb Williams pass yards and Colston Loveland receiving touchdowns. $20 lineup to win $100. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use our code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That is code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It is good to be right. Okay, Brad Biggs. He believes that if the Bears are going to trade Tyson Bagent, it's going to cost a 2nd-round pick. There had been speculation of that. I don't think he's hardcore reporting this, but I think he's kind of piecing intel together. Ryan Poles raving about Bagent. Ben Johnson raving about Bagent. A good fit in the locker room. Cost affordable, right? Less than $5 million per year for a quality backup who's still young and ascending. Plus, he's probably heard other things behind the scenes. Now, if that's true, that the Bears would only do it for a second, I would say a trade's unlikely, right? I don't expect a team to offer a second for Tyson Bagent. I would guess the offers are probably in that 4th-round range. Now, if they hold firm with these teams on a 2nd-round pick, could a team come down and pay a 3rd-round pick? And that's where I have the question. Would the Bears trade Bagent for a 3rd? And I think that's a tough call. I would lean yes, and here is why. Because a year from now, the QB supply-demand issue is probably not going to be in the Bears' favor in terms of whether or not they would trade Tyson Bagent, because the draft is expected to have more options in the early rounds a year from now, and that's really what this comes down to. Fernando Mendoza appears to be the only player in this draft that teams feel confident can play right away. Maybe Ty Simpson goes 1st round, but he only has 15 collegiate starts, and there's a rich history of guys at that position not excelling with that little playing time. So a year from now, even if it's just 3 first-round guys in the first, well, that's 2 more than this year. And Bagent would only have 1 year left in his contract than 2. So his value right now is probably never going to be higher, barring a Caleb Williams injury this season and Bagent lights it up. That's the only situation where his value could increase. And knock on wood, we don't want that to happen. And Caleb Williams has been very durable, so that's a long shot, obviously. So that's why I would probably trade him for a 3rd, especially if it was like a top 75 pick. Now, if it's some comp pick or something, okay, like I'm cool keeping him. I like Bagent. I want him to be here, but certainly if the team offers a 2nd, but if you get a high 3rd, look, the value is probably never going to be higher, and this team needs to plug pieces on this roster. So you get a top 75 pick, that would be pretty hard to turn down if you're Ryan Poles. So I'll ask you, would you trade Bagent for a 3rd? I think most of you would for sure trade him for a second. But a third, I think you enter that gray area a little bit because a cheap, affordable backup's very valuable in today's NFL. Type Y for yes, you would, or type N for no, you would not. Okay, let's talk a little Braxton Jones. Brad Biggs also said on the score that Chicago could bring back Braxton Jones as a cheap bridge option at left tackle. He was kind of more exploring that idea. I don't think he was hardcore reporting it. I don't love this idea. I'm not completely against it, especially if you look at some other options and you can get Jones back for $4 or $5 million. Like, he started a lot of games. He knows the offense. Like, there's value in a guy like this. Like, he seems like a great locker room fit. But, like, what's going to change a year later than what we saw last year, which was a guy they decided a month into the year wasn't their best option? And, oh, by the way, the guy he would likely be competing with in Theo Benedet is a guy that they benched him for. And so I guess the one variable would be, well, he was coming off that ankle injury. His weight was a little down because he didn't have his full strength back. Well, even when he was fully healthy in his first 3 years, what was the biggest question mark we always had? He can't anchor. Big, bully pass rushers give him major issues. I don't think all of a sudden he's just going to anchor well at left tackle. Maybe it's a little bit better, and maybe more importantly, the run blocking is better because at his best, he was a serviceable pass protector and a good run blocker. Well, isn't that kind of what Theo Benedet is? Theo Benedet's a good run blocker, but he's not great in pass pro because he has shorter arms. So I just, if it's like a fallback option and his market just isn't robust and you get him back for, $3 to $5 million, I'm not completely against it, but like, does this competition inspire you for next season? And I know the Bears are trying to thread that needle of, okay, is this just a one-year deal and then Ozzie's going to come back and be fine? I think it's tough because it's a serious injury Trapillo dealt with. We don't know, A, when he's going to be back, and B, what he's going to be like when he does get back. I'd rather go with a different name, whether that's a draft pick, whether that's a different player in free agency. I just think this coaching staff has had Braxton for a year now. And, like, are they all of a sudden going to be big believers in what he can bring to the table? That's a tough sell to me. So, again, I could see a scenario where we're 3 days into free agency and the market's dried up and the Bears haven't had a left tackle and Braxton's camped like, hey, we're open to coming back, and it's like $3-4 million. Like, okay, like, I'm not against that. At worst, he's a decent backup, but it doesn't exactly, like, scream like, oh, that's the answer either, especially given the messaging we got from the staff with Braxton a year ago. So we'll see, but I would probably lean no on that one. All right, my name is Harrison Graham. Thank you guys so much for watching today's show. If you made it to the end of the episode, we greatly appreciate it. Hit that subscribe button. More content to come. Bear down.